The New York Times and other idiots who spent years screaming at people to trust the science while threatening and silencing any dissenters are now admitting that their science was in fact wrong. And honestly, their science wasn't just wrong. It wasn't science at all. It was actually government propaganda. Are they sorry that their blind allegiance to the government got people killed, pushed them into poverty, trapped them in their homes? Not really. They just want you to know that they made a mistake and it's understandable because they were scared. The whole thing is honestly nauseating. It's infuriating, not only because of the arrogance and the smugness and the lack of true remorse, but also because at the exact same time that they're working this press tour to reform their image from those years, the exact same media puppets that carried out that scam on the American people are parroting moronic, easily proven false talking points on behalf of those same friends inside of the government on yet another issue. And their base, their supporters, are falling for it all over again. So today, I am once again going to be fact-checking the fact-checkers. First, I'm Hannah Cox. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Before we get going, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you get alerted when I drop new videos. All of that would be so appreciated. As you can probably tell from my voice, I have been under the weather this week. That's why I haven't had a ton of videos, but I was listening to the New York Times podcast, The Daily, this morning, as I often do, and I got so pissed enough to get in hair and makeup, write a script, and jump on here and film because I have to talk about this. The title of the episode is Were the COVID Lockdowns Worth It?, which is a sentence that honestly hurts my brain. We even have to ask. The obvious answer is no. It featured two political scientists. I had to relook up their names because I didn't know them. Stephen Macedo and Francis Lee. They are both professors of politics at Princeton University. And I tried to find their record during the COVID years when it really mattered to see, were they speaking out against these things then? No, not really. They were MIA. But now they're hawking this new book called In COVID's Wake, How Our Politics Failed Us. So the New York Times is still not platforming all of the scientists, the medical professors, or the media pundits that were correct on these issues all along, that predicted these things were not only ineffective, but ruinous. The people that they censored, the people who got it right when it mattered, the people who risked their livelihoods and their reputations to be right. So from the get-go, it just pisses me off. If you're actually sorry, go say it to those people and then bring them on your platform to let them explain to you why you were wrong and how they knew better than you did. Bringing on people who are hawking a book presenting what a lot of us knew to be right all along, but that they didn't say when there were actual consequences to saying it is a huge slap in the face. And this is personal to me, if you can't tell. I risked my livelihood during that time period. I was just getting going in the media. I was still a pretty young politico, and I spoke out on these things when it mattered, when there were consequences, when I could have lost my job, when my reputation was at stake, and when honestly all of the inertia, all of the incentives, both in media and politics, were going against me. The best thing I could have done at that point in time was keep my mouth shut and go along with the narrative. I was working for a super left-wing company, actually, when all of this started, and then I was reliant on the media ecosystem to make a living. So I, every single day when I was speaking out, was putting myself on the line. And not only that, but I was regularly getting censored on various social media platforms. I was risking having my platforms taken down when I spoke out. So I don't have any appetite for people who didn't get it right back then doing anything but prostrating themselves in remorse in the streets. And honestly, if you were one of those people that were so wrong during that time period, or that followed the people that were so wrong, I can't fathom having the audacity to be still out here in the streets giving my political opinion. Clearly, I would understand if I were one of those people that I was easy to mislead, that I was somebody who lacked wisdom, who lacked intellectual humility, and I would be on a listening tour to try to reform myself and be better educated before I attempted to meddle in politics and by extension, other people's lives in the future. I think we as a country have still not fully processed what these tyrants did to us during that time period, and more importantly, what they were trying to do and that we stopped. The few of us who did get it right, and this is across all of the political parties, okay? Even many libertarians folded on this front. Institutions that I respected for years, scholars that I thought would be fighting alongside me, completely folded and went along with this agenda. There were so few of us, and yet because we had the truth on our side and because we were brave and bold, we won. We fought back the biggest Goliath I have ever witnessed in politics in all of my years and also really in all of my research. It is so scary what these people attempted to do. And as I said, I was working for a left-wing institution when this went down, and I actually understood immediately when they started using the term public health that something bigger was afoot, because I was doing criminal justice reform at the time, and I had noticed that the left-wing people I was working around kept trying to change the narrative around criminal justice reform to one that pushed the idea that violence was a public health epidemic. And that's not just a narrative that they were trying to set. As I dug more into that, because I thought it was weird, there was like a coordinated thing going on across left-wing groups that I was in association with at that time, I was figuring out quite quickly that the public health words had real legal teeth. They were doing that because they had understood this huge loophole that was at foot in our laws that would allow state and local governments and even the federal government to usurp massive constitutional protections under the guise of public health. So they had an agenda to start pushing very left-wing things, very communist ideas, very commie policies under this notion of public health, even before COVID hit. That was something that was at foot in left-wing organizations for years beforehand. And then when it did hit, the way that they came together and in such a coordinated way were able to push this notion and start stripping our liberties under this public health pandemic, I realized what had been at play all along. They wanted to go so much further. The evidence for this is so ample and documented. I mean, obviously in the ways that everyone is aware of in trying to shut down schools, shut down businesses, and trying to force people to put things in their bodies or cover their faces in order to participate in public life or even hold a job. But also, if you look at some of the other things they were angling to do, like when they tried to cancel rent and say that landlords could no longer collect rent from people and they couldn't kick people out if they weren't paying. If you look at the teachers unions and many of the blue states and the agendas that they were trying to push, things like forcing Medicare for all before they would allow the schools to be reopened, they were trying to push us into a communist country. And they got really effing close because a lot of you folded and a lot of you fell for it. Honestly, if you're one of those people, you need to drop me a super chat because you're welcome. Those of us who stood up and fought back a tidal wave of oppression, a very coordinated effort. And it involved the government, it involved the media, it involved the experts, which are really just a bunch of government bureaucrats. It involved the science community. It was bad. And we won, and that matters. But it needs to be remembered because these people that did that and that were trying to do even more should never be listened to again on anything. Most of them were evil, sinister, oppressive people who would not have stopped. They had no intention of stopping. They didn't care about the horrible effects of their ideas on human life. They literally would have kept going if not for the fact that we were able to rally so many people against them. And that's most of them. I really do put most of the people who were pushing the COVID Inc. agenda in that camp. But at best, the others were very, very stupid. They were gullible. They were easily misled. They weren't very smart. They didn't know how to research. They didn't have actual intellectualism. They weren't able to logically evaluate facts and come away with their own opinions. So it blows my mind that many of these same pundits still have followings at all. And if I didn't think they were stupid beforehand, I certainly know they're stupid now because they are doing it all over again. These same Democrat media puppets are listening to the exact same experts who are really, like I said, just government bureaucrats and the scientists that we employ. And they are still seeking to run defense for these mad scientists who created the pandemic in the first place. And they are still buying their talking points hook, line, and sinker Over the past couple of weeks, there has been a coordinated media campaign that has been afoot after Trump referred to shocking revelations during his congressional speech a few weeks ago that were documented by the White Coat Waste Project, showing that the NIH was spending millions of dollars to transgender mice.
In Central America, $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
Now, as you know, if you work with me, I am a fellow for the White Coat Waste Project. I love their work. I am an animal rights activist, but I am an animal rights activist that really wants to focus on actually saving animal lives versus, the crazy people at PETA who run around throwing blood at people and telling them they can't eat meat. The work of the White Coat Waste Project is amazing because they have identified the true source of the problem, which is the government. The US government is the top funder of animal torture in the world. The market won't fund it. The market has evolved ethically. They won't fund these kinds of experiments, but the government still will. So the universities, the labs, all of the actual scientists that are trying to do this work are on the payroll of the government. It's a huge collusion between them. And because of that, the entire field of science has been corrupted because it has perverse incentives and is working very close hand in hand with the government. This is how we got the pandemic in the first place. The White Coat Waste Project is solely focused on ending taxpayer-funded animal torture, which would do more than any other animal rights activist organization has ever dreamed of doing to actually protect innocent animal lives. And not only are they working to do that, they're also working to fight for you, the taxpayer, because it's your taxes that are being seized and used to carry out these heinous experiments without your consent. So the fact that the White Coat Waste Project came across this evidence that the NIH was spending millions to try to transgender mice is really just a drop in the bucket of the breadth of the work, okay? But of course, this is what gets attention because trans issues just absolutely dominate our political discourse because we are a very stupid country. But no matter how you feel about trans issues, this should be something very easy for Democrats and Republicans to come together on because it is animal torture, millions of dollars being spent on animal torture. It's senseless, it's unacceptable, and it's actually something that should outrage the trans community because if allegedly the government needs to still be doing this kind of science on transgender operations, then you really need to question why they've been pushing trans surgeries on kids if the actual science behind it wasn't concrete. That's insane. But no, instead of having even a lick of common sense in this discussion, Democrats are so backed into a corner right now that they are literally out here simping for animal torture and straight up lying to the American people about these experiments.
For me, as he pretended to be concerned about cutting costs and rooting out fraud and all this, he made the claim that under Biden, the federal government was spending $8 million on this.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
No, it's not. You hear the president of the United States say we're spending $8 million to do sex change operations on mice. You say, well, I'm sure he's exaggerating, but there must be something there. Turns out there's not. It's not real. The government spent money on transgenic mice, which are genetically modified mice they use in lab tests to study disease. It has nothing to do with being transgender other than the trans part of the word. You think they know this and just ignore it, or are they so dumb they don't know how to Google? Or maybe they think we're so dumb we don't know how to Google. I don't know. They're turning Mickeys into Minnies and Minnies into Mickeys.
Now, Jimmy Kimmel's lame comedic stand-up routine on this got a lot of traction, but it was part of a coordinated media campaign. I don't know who's behind it, but listen, you guys have to get smarter. You need more media literacy. You need to be able to recognize when things are not organic. Here's just a small sampling of the number of headlines that have run in major mainstream media publications over the past couple of weeks, working to, quote, fact check President Trump and make conservatives look stupid on this issue. Forbes, this is what's behind Trump's uproar over transgender mice. Rolling Stone, Trump doubles down on lies, says government-funded transgender surgery on mice. The president expanded a false claim he made during his joint address to Congress last week. Here's Snopes, which has never gotten a fact check right in my memory. They say analyzing claim that Trump confused transgenic mice with transgender mice in address to Congress. We could go on and on. This is the narrative that has been disseminated to the media puppets, and they are running with it. We're not doing studies to transgender mice. He got confused. The studies were just talking about transgenic mice. This is like normal operations. I mean, even if that were true, we would still be talking about millions of dollars for animal torture. But secondarily, it's very, very easy to prove that what Trump said is correct. Like, we have so many receipts on this, I could bury somebody. And yet all of these mainstream media publications are out here with these full articles running lies, running misinformation. And these Democrats are the same people that were trying to put a disinformation board in place not too long ago because they think they're the arbiters of truth. I'll say this, Republicans might be slightly more likely to fall for like kooky conspiracies like QAnon and things like that, but Democrats, you are just as bad. You believe absolutely anything you are told so long as it's coming from somebody that you identify as being in your tribe. And guess what? You are fed constant misinformation, constant government propaganda. And not only are you too stupid to notice it, but you're arrogant. You have this they have this complete ridiculous arrogance where they just look down on conservatives and think they're dumber, they're stupider, and yet they can never ever spot when they are being lied to by their own. Even when it becomes like something that even the left-wing publications are having to admit they got wrong, you won't see a widespread understanding among the left's grassroots that they were lied to. Like the whole Russiagate scandal is an excellent example. Most people on the left still believe that that's legit, that that was real, that that happened. And it's not. It's been easily proven that it was never true, that most of what was pushed out there was completely fabricated. The left-wing media articles have had to run edits and additions and clarifications, but they do it quietly. They're not out here ringing the alarm and telling you that they lied to you. And so most of the left never gets the update. Guys, take a second to weigh in the comments. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Did you notice that this media campaign was going down? Have you been paying attention to it? Were you one of the ones who fell for it? Are you currently falling for it? Are you currently in my comments typing I don't know what transgenic is and I'm wrong? Because I'm about to data dump on you. So you should probably just stop typing if that's you, but we'll get there. While you're leaving a comment, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, if you drop me a super chat, I'll make sure to read it on the show next time. So as I mentioned, we, and by we, I mean the White Coat Waste Project, has enough receipts on this issue to bury people. And it did not first come up in Trump's speech. That's when most of the Democrat puppets started paying attention. But actually in early February, the House Oversight Committee held an investigative hearing featuring testimony from Justin Goodman, who is the senior vice president at the White Coat Waste Project. And he presented a lot of data on government-funded animal torture, much of it very risky research. This was by no means the only topic he touched on. From his testimony, he said, based on government documents, we estimate that over $20 billion a year of taxpayers' money is wasted on ineffective and inhumane tests on tens of millions of puppies, kittens, and other animals in the US and in hundreds of foreign laboratories. We've also identified over $240 million in NIH grants for transgender animal experiments, including $26 million in active funding. Some of these tests examine the effects of sex party drugs on the impact of hormones used for human gender transitions on the size and shape of lab animals' genitals. Guess where 95% of this funding came from? Dr. Fauci's National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So Trump was merely referring to this data. It's not like he went and found this information and brought it up. There is an entire organization that has been singularly focused on this issue and ringing the alarm on multiple government torture tests with animals, not just this one. No one is arguing that transgenic mice are not used in scientific experiments, but elevating this topic, particularly in the way they have unrolled it, all of a sudden you have all these publications talking about it. It's an intentional sleight of hand by the media pundits. They are trying to confuse the rank and file people and run cover for the agencies that are carrying out these insane, abusive, and risky animal experiments. You idiots got played so bad, down bad by Fauci and his minions during COVID, and you're having to do a whole media full court press to try to address how bad he played you out in these streets right now. And yet you are still listening to those same agencies, to those same bureaucrats, to those same scientists and carrying water for them. Make it make sense. The direct quotes from the NIH-funded grants and the NIH-funded peer-reviewed papers reporting on transgender animal experiments include phrases like the following: a transgender mouse model that allows for well-defined T cessation timing, gender-affirming hormone therapy, and a rodent model of the trans female rat. Female mice were assigned to one of 4 experimental groups to mimic gender-affirming hormone therapy in human adolescents. We have developed a mouse model to mimic T treatment for FTM, female to male, gender transition. We will develop a mouse model of XHT, cross-sex hormone therapy, that recapitulates clinical hormone therapy for male to female transition in humans. I could go on and on and on, and I will link the actual studies for those who can read. I'm not convinced it's very many of these like grassroots left-wing supporters at this point. I mean, the illiteracy problem in America is out of control, but this was always easy to look into. It's always been easy to find. These are public documents. And it is very, very, very clear from the language that we are talking about transgender experiments on mice. It has nothing to do with transgenic. There is no confusion. They are intentionally lying to you and working to mislead you, and they believe you're stupid enough to fall for it. And honestly, they've largely been right. Just look, I ran a piece in the Washington Examiner this week detailing this, fact-checking the fact-checkers, and I presented it across various social media platforms. And I want you to look at just how dense the audience is for this stuff. Alex Broomberg private messaged me because he was not ballsy enough to say it in public, I guess. Are you a MAGA mouthpiece now? You must know the word transgenic has nothing to do with transgender, right? Why are you interested in spreading lies? What's your motive? John Phillips. Oh yes, the well-known excellent journalism and integrity of the Examiner. The Washington Examiner has a perfectly fine reputation. And once again, you idiots have been lied to over and over and over by your left-wing media publications. The fact that you somehow continue to believe that you're reading the New York Times or Forbes or Rolling Stone is giving you superior information to slightly right-leaning outlets like the Washington Examiner is so obtuse. It's so arrogant. It's so obviously asinine. And like, it's common too. Like, I get this when people can't actually engage with information that is pushing on their preconceived biases and notions that is going to maybe reveal them to be an idiot. Their obvious defense is to not engage with the information because of the source. It's low IQ. Kathy Owens. I can't believe people are so stupid they cannot look up transgenic. We must believe the idiot in the White House or whoever wrote his speech that they are doing sex changes on mice. For God's sake, get a brain. I would be so embarrassed if I left a comment like this on a literal fact check of the fact checkers with the full data detailing the scientific experiments right under my fingertips. Mike Kimmel, conservatives admitting they still don't understand the difference between biological sex and gender. This guy, Dominic Andre, who has like 200,000 followers on Instagram, he was in a Jubilee debate with me a while back and thinks he's like super smart. He's not. He lost. I think it was gun control we were debating. He lost hand over fist to me on that, but he started messaging me on Instagram. So this study actually helps women with PCOS. I understand that helping women with PCOS isn't worth it because if it indirectly helps trans people, and we should make sure that women with PCOS don't get the care they need. But for those of us who studied science for a long time, studies like this make a difference because science isn't linear. The information gathered on a study like this can help so many people, specifically PCOS, which can lead to elevated androgens. Dominic, what study? You clearly didn't look up the actual studies that are being referenced here because they don't have jack shit to do with PCOS. They have to do with transgenderism. And he kept going too. He was just like talking to himself in my DMs. He goes, I mean, these studies help women actually too. There are a number of huge benefits to these studies for women using medications like birth control hormones that many women take for hormone imbalance and more. I'm assuming he got the DNC talking points for whoever's coordinating this media campaign in his inbox because like he has not even bothered to barely look into the subject matter and yet he's popping off like this. It's laughable. I finally responded to him and I said, don't use women as an excuse for animal torture. Absolutely not. There is zero excuse for this BS. He said, I mean, the argument of animal torture is a separate one. No, it's not. It's the entire argument right here. I get that it's inconvenient for you, but it's not a separate one. He went on, so you post about all animal torture? You are against all animal testing? If so, I think there is somewhat of an argument there. Just curious though, I never seen your post about it till it was about trans mice. Maybe I missed your other post. Yeah, maybe you did, you idiot. I said, I'm a fellow for one of the largest groups working to stop taxpayer-funded animal torture, so you'd have to work pretty hard to miss previous posts. Curious though, when is the last time you were out advocating for women with PCOS? Pretty sure you weren't until idiots in the Democrat puppet media told you misinformation on this matter that you fell for hook, line, and sinker and then rushed to spread to defend your home team. I've said it before, I'll keep saying it. The two-party system makes you stupid. It literally breaks people's brains. And what's frustrating about all of this is not only do you have to fight the actual misinformation from Democrats, not only are Democrats so gullible that they're literally out here simping for animal torture because they dislike Trump? You also have to fight people on your home team. Like, these next two comments are people that I personally know and like, but like, it's infuriating. Jeff Fladen on my Facebook said, maybe we debate the role of the federal government instead of just trying to make each other mad. We are debating the role of the federal government. The role of the federal government should not be in funding animal torture. And Tom Arnold, who's a great libertarian, but he said, this is a dead horse. There are far more important issues that need discussion. No, there's not. We are talking about animal lives. We are talking about tens of millions of dollars. We are talking about corrupt scientific experiments being done with our tax dollars that are not only torturous, but that can lead to pandemics. We are talking about the government lying to us. We are talking about a media ecosystem that continues to be a puppeteering organization for the government. It's a propaganda network. Please explain to me what is more important than talking about this. You just don't want to give Trump a win. I've had it. I've had it. It has become very apparent that what Democrats and their media puppets mean by trusting the science is refuse to read the science when it presents problems with your ideology. They're hacks, and they in no way have a leg up when it comes to science. It's actually pathetic that they continue to think that they do. If you are one of the people who fell for all of this COVID BS, the entire orchestration in the first time, you need a reality check. You're not the brightest bulb. It's okay. You can improve, but you need to find new media sources. You need to question your political allegiances and your bias. You need to become far more intellectually humble and inquisitive. Otherwise, you will keep getting played, and you also will find yourself completely unable to be taken seriously. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also head over to Twitter and TikTok and Instagram for even more content, and I'll see you next week.